Vote counting continues nearly a week after general elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Results from the presidential poll have been trickling in. On Friday, the Central African Nations Electoral Commission announced results from the diaspora. The results indicated a provisional lead for incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi, who is running for a second term. Some 44 million voters in the DRC were registered to elect a new president, national and provincial lawmakers, as well as municipal councillors. However, last Wednesday's vote was marred by massive delays and bureaucratic chaos, forcing the Electoral Commission to extend voting in some areas until Thursday. Some officials said voting spilled into Friday. The opposition have criticized the election's disarray and warned against the potential for electoral fraud. Some opposition candidates have called for a protest this week. Full provisional election results are expected on December the 31st. Well, for the latest on the tallying process, CGTN's Chris Ochamringa is in Kinshasa for us. Chris, DR Congo is now in the vote tallying process. What's the latest on this, and what is the mood like as the Congolese await the election results?
Yeah, so the Electoral Commission released the third batch of provisional results on Monday night, which showed that President Felix Tshisekedi had a clear lead against his rivals. He had 80% of the votes, followed by his main challenger, Moise Katumbi, with 15.8% of the votes. The third was the opposition leader, Martin Fayulu, who got 1.8%. The rest of the 16 candidates only managed to they got less than 1% of the votes cast. And, there are some people, supporters of President Felix Tshisekedi, who are saying that this is clear that the president is heading for victory, and they have urged the opposition members to concede defeat and congratulate the president, because this is a victory for all Congolese. But that is not what opposition members feel. They have rejected the outcome. And there's a lot of tension in some parts of the country, like Lubumbashi in the southeast, where a popular opposition leader who is close to Moise Katumbi urged the people to turn up, to take to the streets to protest this outcome of this election, which they have described as a sham. He told the youth not to accept their leader to be robbed of victory. And so the government has deployed a lot of soldiers in Lubumbashi, in the streets, with all these weapons to try and break up any protests that may happen in that area. The Electoral Commission says they're still collecting and tabulating results from other provinces of the country, and they're doing their very best to ensure that the full provisional results will be released by the 31st of December. Beatrice?
Well, Chris, let's stay for the moment with that rejection of the outcome by the opposition, because as you mentioned there, the opposition has called for protest in the capital, Kinshasa, on Wednesday. What is the government saying about this, and how are the people reacting?
So the government hasn't issued any official reaction because the opposition members had written to the governor of Kinshasa, Gentini Gobila, asking him to authorize them to hold this protest, but there has been no official reaction yet. But from some sources I've spoken to who are in the government, it's very unlikely that the government will allow this to happen, because they say that this is a very sensitive period. There are people, young people, who may take advantage of it to start looting and causing chaos in the country. They say that normally these protests that are described as peaceful turn very violent during election time, and so it's very unlikely that they will allow them to hold this protest. But the opposition members are saying that it's within their constitutional right to protest in case things are not done according to the law, and so they're also planning to go ahead with this protest. Some of them have been holding a meeting right now to discuss their next course of action, and so we're likely to see a showdown between the police officers and the supporters of the opposition candidates in Kinshasa on Wednesday. Beatrice?
Well, Chris, as we understand, according to local media in the DRC, polling continued Sunday in some parts of the country due to the late arrival of voting materials. Now, this is after logistical challenges forced to the vote to take place over several days after it began on Wednesday. The opposition has also voiced concern, saying the extension of polling goes against the electoral law and the Constitution. And so, Chris, I need a little bit more of clarification on this, because it looks like voting has been ongoing in some parts of Eastern DRC. What have you been able to establish about this?
Yes, Beatrice, I spoke to an official who is working very closely with election observers across the country, and he confirmed that voting indeed happened on Sunday and even Monday. There were some areas in the east of the DRC where people were casting their ballots, and I've also just got information that there are some parts of the western areas of DRC, an area known as Kindu, where people were voting early this morning. And so this is something that the opposition members have really, held on to, saying that it is a clear indication that there is a plan by the government and the Electoral Commission to rig this vote in the favor of the incumbent president. And that is what they're going to use to mount a legal challenge against the Electoral Commission. They have described this election as a massive fraud, and they want it to be overturned. They want fresh elections to be held with a different Electoral Commission, something that's very unlikely to be done. But we are likely to see more legal challenges and protests, contestation about this election for many weeks to come. Beatrice?